Okay. So, and then for the photo shoot, I don't know if this is too shiny. I can take it off, but
Yeah, we'll probably be using continuous light, so it shouldn't be a problem. But if it's reflecting or something,
just tell me to take it off. I felt like this was a little simple, but then I wanted a little bit of flair. Because like my last photo shoot was just like the typical black dress.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and it's like I'm gonna do some color. You know.
Pop a little bit for this one.
Yeah.
So we can just kind of start talking about you a little bit and how you came to have Urban Loop. So what's your story?
I actually thought I was going to be your typical doctor or lawyer. My major the first semester in college was bio, and then I was allowed to take 1 or 2 extra electives, and I was like, what's this architecture and culture? That sounds good, I'll sign up for that. And that professor just sucked me into that world of architecture. It's like, and I never came back out. I changed my major that week. And so I fell in love with architecture, and growing up in a business environment, I learned a lot about business through my father. And so being the boss is kind of like in my blood, right? And so I worked at many different firms just to kind of get an idea of how they work, how they operate, and also too to gain experience. And over time I began to see there's a lot of inefficiencies, right? And you get to a point where you can see that you can offer better services, more streamlined services, communicate it better, create a recipe of your own of how to run and own and operate a design studio, and it's something that I've always wanted to do. It was just a matter of when. And I had purchased the website domain way back when. I mean, I think I was probably still in college when I bought the domain. And so it was just inevitable. And so as I said, it was just a matter of time when would be the perfect moment to do it. There was always this anxiety about when do you know when you should do it, right? Because of course nobody can know everything. And when I started seeing the errors that my higher ups were making and my bosses were making, I realized you don't have to know it all. You don't have to be perfect. Just for me, what that meant was I just have to have confidence in myself that whatever it is I don't know, I'll figure it out, or I'll make the right contacts to figure it out. And so, then I started. I started, and my first client was out in Frisco, surprisingly, because it's kind of far from here. I took it.
Nice. And so did you always know kind of what you would specialize in, or did you know kind of what the business model would be for your business?
No, I didn't know that. That was something that I didn't know that there's so many specialties. You know, like most people who build airports, kind of that's their specialty. People who design hospitals, there's certain nuances about those projects that you have to be a specialist in. You know, like the air conditioning needs to be sanitized at the hospital, you know, versus that's not much of a concern in-house. So in the beginning, it was more of just a buffet of like what companies are producing work that I like, that are reputable, and just gaining experience wherever I could. And then eventually I realized I want to work on smaller projects because they're quicker and they're also a little bit more personal, as opposed to trying to convince a board of people who sometimes, most of the time, their main interest is the bottom line of cost and budget.
Yeah. And so was that first project, was that a personal small project?
No,
Okay.
no. I was thrown in the deep end. They put me on a 33-acre, mixed-use project that was featured in the New York Times Magazine as the largest mixed-use development. I mean, it's here in Dallas. It's called Park Lane,
Okay.
right across the street from North Park Mall.
Okay.
So it was, you know, restaurants, bowling alley, retail, condo towers, and it's like a mix of buildings. We even did bridges on that. And so, you know, that took a very long time to do. And after that project, I kept chanting. The last year on that project, I kept chanting, "We're almost done. We're almost done," just because it took forever. And after that project, I realized I want to work on smaller projects that are a little bit quicker, and then I can wrap my brain around more parts of the project, as opposed to just being like hyper-focused on just the technical aspects. Because there's like design aspect, there's material aspects, there's many different areas of the project, many layers to it.
And so are you known as like the project manager or as the architect on those types of projects? Like, how do they refer to you when they're breaking down who's in charge of the pieces?
Yeah, so on that project, that was my first project out of school. So I was an intern. And the way that it worked was, it was the studio director. And then because that project had many buildings, we had project architects. So like this project architect was in charge of this building, this project architect was in charge of that building. And then there's a technical team like me who was executing the drawings on it. That's kind of like the main structure for, organization structure for the technical side. Then we also had the design team who was working with the developers to figure out, okay, what materials will we use, what's the layout, what's the design. Then we had like a team who was trying to figure out the signage of it. Then we had traffic control people, you know, because it had to build streets and all that. So we had to work with the city to figure out traffic lighting and streets and vehicular circulation. Yeah, there were a lot of I guess, organizational structures just for that one project.
Yeah. And so now have you, you know, even within that more simple, personal, quicker, have you created a specialization within that, or do you take on kind of all kinds of projects within, with Urban Loop?
I like to stay focused on residential, just because it's smaller and more personal. If I do commercial, it's going to have to be in a collaboration with a much larger firm at this point. I do have people that I joint venture with when that opportunity arises, but it has to be an amazing project. Something where the main interest is people and the culture and the city, not just the profit margin for a developer. I mean, I understand that's important too, but I need enough budget to play with.
Right.
So,
Okay, great. And so do people come to you usually? Is it word of mouth? Do people find you for the most part?
it's a mixture of a lot of it. Sometimes I get a referral. Sometimes people find me online. So it's just a mixture. Yeah.
And so we kind of went over what services you offer, but where do you usually do your projects?
Just here in Dallas. With the pandemic, we transitioned online. So we've done some of our first projects over Zoom, which has been a little anxious on my end because I like to be there and, you know, go to the house and check and see what's going on. So I had a little bit of anxiety, but we were able to handle it well because it involved a little bit extra work on the client's end, meaning they sometimes would have to take measurements for me, right? For clients that didn't feel comfortable with people coming to their house, you know, they agreed to take videos and photos and measurements. And then there were some clients that were perfectly fine with me going over and then I didn't feel comfortable because it's like, why are you hugging me? And at that point, vaccines weren't out.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, so mainly in Dallas, but this new ability to work over Zoom is going to really allow us to service other smaller Metroplex areas. Because we get a lot of requests from like Killeen and Tyler, the outskirts of Fort Worth, because they don't have talent there, and I'm not going to drive that extra hour or two to work with them. But now, giving them the option to work over Zoom will definitely broaden our service area.
Great. And is there a reason that you ended up landing in Lake Highlands for your officing, or was it just, you know, the place that you found, you know? Is Lake Highlands special to you in any way?
I'm a small design studio, and I base my studio out of my house. I do have a mailing address that I use on all my correspondence just because it's safer. But I do office out of my home, and so that's how I ended up, I guess, figuring out where my business is going to be located.
Great. So you're a resident of Lake Highlands then?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Yeah. And did you move to this area right after college, or?
No. So I lived in Dallas for 3 or 4 years when I was working on Park Lane here in Dallas, Texas. And then I actually left to go get my master's, and then I got pulled into New York to go work at SOM and another amazing company called Nancy and Duffy as a contract worker. And then I had this rare opportunity to go work on casinos, not for Las Vegas, not for the mafia, how they say it, but for the Native Americans. So these are casinos that are in Oklahoma. These are casinos in Alabama. And then after that, I decided to get married. And when I decided to get married, I got an amazing opportunity to come back here in Dallas and work. And so after that, I decided to, at that time, I decided that I was going to buy a place and stay here. So it's really just following the jobs. I'm like, that job looks cool. Let's go work on casinos. Because, I mean, casinos is completely different from mixed use. You know, mixed use is very, like, you're designing a box and you're just, you know, like Nordstrom Rack, basically, that's over there. It's just a box, and then you just put all these clothes in there. Versus casinos are like, oh my God, look at this intricate ceiling at the bar, you know? Like if you think of Cosmo in Vegas, if you've ever been, you get to play with a lot of design elements because the budget's there.
And so when was Urban Loop actually created? Do you know how many years it's been?
So if you want, I don't know how you want to count it. Like, do you want to count it when I bought the website? I would say, and then before I started it, people were pinging me like, hey, we need you to come design stuff for us. Like, I remember when I was looking to buy this Lake Highlands house, I had reached out to a developer to see what homes he had that I could buy. I went to go meet him, and he started questioning me left and right. And I'm like, I'm sorry, are you interviewing me? He's like, yeah, I like your work. You're going to design my next few projects. And I'm like, I have a full-time job. Like, I'm trying to buy a house from you. So, and at that time, moonlighting is not something that's respected in our industry. And honestly, the hours that we work, I just couldn't handle another project on top of planning a wedding. So I was just like, look, you're gonna sell me the house or not, because otherwise I'm gonna go. So I guess like full-time official start date was November 2015. Full-time.
Yeah. With your first project in Frisco? Is that what you count as? And so we talked a little bit about how, you know, you you didn't expect to end up in architecture or anything. And do you feel that like your perspective and background, is this a male-dominated field? Do you feel that you bring something unique to the industry that wasn't there before?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely male dominated. I mean, this Park Lane project, I was the only female. And we're talking about, 20 people on the team just on the design side. That's not including structural engineers, which are all male. Civil engineers, all male. Mechanical, electrical, plumbing, all males. All the contractors, all males. So I've had to, have you ever seen the Pixar movie, Pearl? The little short film?
I haven't.
She's a character, she's a pink ball of yarn. That's me. And you have to watch it, it's like 5 minutes.
Okay.
It's so cute. So, navigating that was tough because it's like, I'm the youngest, I'm an intern, I'm a female, I'm a minority, I'm petite, and so I had to really figure out how to survive. And I had to lose a little bit of my femininity in doing that, because I had to grow thick skin and deal with their rough play, I guess. I don't know how to say it. So that was tough, especially construction job sites, because that's like all men. At least in the office, I have women who are in HR or women who are in accounting, or and on this, some of the architecture firms that I worked with had an interior design department, and so there were a lot more females there, but I would have to like go downstairs, and they're working, so it's like kind of hard to connect there. What I would, there's definitely a different, it's no secret that men and women think differently. And so to be able to bring feminine aspects to a project, I think is so valuable because, we are detail oriented. I know I am, and a lot of my clients love that, especially when it comes to aspects of the home. Men usually care about the garage and a man cave. But there are other areas of the house that a woman is occupying. And so those nuances, those details, clients love that I handle with such care. Simple things like, we have Dysons, they need plugs to charge. And so, deciding where you put that, where in a way that it's not an eyesore. Something as simple as adding a plug in a pantry, so we can hide it and it can still get charged. Things like that. Or thinking about, okay, this client is left-handed, let's put the dishwasher on the left side of the sink. So there's certain details that are considered that most cookie-cutter homes or most homes that are designed by males are not taking into account. I would say communication is a big one too. I think women in general have a tendency to over-communicate, and I think that's better than there are more opportunities for clients to gain clarity and transparency when working, I would say, I don't want to generalize, but I'll say with me, when clients come to me, they basically say, we hired you because you're a woman. And in the beginning, I was like, that really sucks because I want to be known as an expert, right? Like, look at my experience, look at my master's degree in architecture, look at my bachelor's of science, degree in architecture, right? It's not like it's arts or something and I'm trying to be something I'm not, right? Like, I've done my work. And so it kind of bothered me in the beginning that people would say that to me, but I was at that, when you're starting off, it's like, I'll take any client I can get right now. And then I kind of like, I guess accepted it. It's like, there is power in being hired as a woman, right? There is strength there. If that's what they value and if that's what they want, then I need to own that. I need to accept that. I need to leverage that, right? And when you look at some of the 5-star reviews, we have 5-star reviews, which is like, I woke up one morning and I was like, that's pretty freaking phenomenal. And when I'm reading through them, that's what they're saying. She's detail oriented. You know, and when clients are spending the most amount of money they've ever spent just on a house, I think they deserve that. That level of care, transparency, communication. Because think about it, like nobody knows how to read floor plans, right? And think about the anxiety clients have when they're spending all this money on something they don't even understand, right? So I go the extra mile to communicate. I go the extra mile to learn 3D software technology that allows clients to be like, yep, that's it, because a picture speaks 1,000 words, right? I go through the level of communication where I'm not just prescribing a design or just doing what's the cheapest or doing what's typical. I'm letting the client know, hey, based on what I heard you say, these are some viable solutions, design solutions to your problem. Here are the pros and cons of this one. Here are the pros and cons of this one. Here are the pros and cons of this one. And I really invite them into the process of partaking in how they're going to be living in their future home. And I think clients really appreciate that because it makes them feel like this is my home. I made this decision. I'm aware and alert. I'm aware of why this thing is happening the way it is in my house because it really satisfies this need of mine. And I really appreciate what the whole journey, the whole process of designing. And so I would say the communication, the transparency, the level of detail, all of that is something that my clients tell me that I bring to the table that they have not been able to find elsewhere. So yeah, the feminine energy, the feminine perspective to architecture, I think, is something that is rare and in high demand. Works out for me.
Works out for you.
It works out for me.
So is there maybe a favorite project that you've had, or maybe one specific to like Highlands that you remember fondly from your years of doing this?
Oh, you know, it's rarely the entirety of a project. It's usually certain aspects of it. You know, like this one client gave me gave 100% trust in me, autonomy, to really design some custom stuff for them. And I really appreciate that. You know, I get to, it's incredible, you know. I don't know where to start, because there's so many aspects, right? It could be a material that I got to use. It could be like this one cabinet piece, custom cabinet piece that I designed that probably nobody